Good evening, Claremont Center for Spiritual Living. How are you this morning? Hello, everybody. It's so nice to see all of you. Well, I'm Reverend Tracy, as you all know, and some of you who are joining us online may not. I am delighted to welcome you to our community and take in this time that we have a small opportunity to be together. Yay! We've all missed each other. And although I know you see me on Sundays, I don't always get to see you. So I am just so happy to be here and so glad you're joining us for an opportunity to remember who we are, what the truth is about us, about this life that we live that is chaotic as it seems sometimes. The truth is there is a love and a peace and a beauty that is to be enjoyed. And we are here to remind each other and ourselves how to do just that. So thank you all for coming. Our practitioner today is Mary. We haven't seen Mary in a while either. Yay! She's going to do our opening prayer and a reading for us. And I'm just going to have her begin. So I'm going to invite you to take a deep breath and just close your eyes for a moment and let her words take you to that place of peace within.
So as we just take a deep breath and release, and we feel that breeze, that breath of God, we know that God is present. Present within us, present around us, between us, through us, and all is well. Although it may not seem in the human sense that all is well, we know in spirit that it is, and we know in spirit we are supported. So we take another deep breath and release in gratitude. Gratitude for being here, gratitude for our trees, gratitude for our center, gratitude for each other, gratitude for this thing called life. And in that gratitude, we begin our time together tonight. And so it is. And so I have a reading for us tonight. I've been reminded this month, with the COVID, separation, people making their transitions, leaving us behind and moving on, and various things like that in life, I got to a point of being very human and forgetting that I was spirit. And so I chose this reading. So it is that we can talk about truth. We can read about truth. We can study truth. We can hear about truth and never once feel the light. Never once feel the presence and the power of God, unless and until we take the final step of opening consciousness to the very presence of God. When Christ liveth in me, when Christ lives my life for me, no demands are ever made upon me. Every demand is a demand upon Christ. The Father within can accomplish more in 12 seconds than we can do in 12 hours. Let us be willing to be called upon for anything in this world without resentment, without rebellion, without feeling that it is too much for us to do or that too much is being asked of us. It may be too much for John or Mary or Henry to do, but it is never too much for the Christ within.
Thank you. That was just perfect. So my title tonight is A Silent Force. And
And when I started writing, I was remembering in my early college years when I would drive from here to Iowa to go to school. I love the open road and driving by myself. It didn't matter that I was in a 67 Plymouth boat that steered like a, I don't know. It was a big car. It was a really big car. But it got me there. And I usually drove at night through the desert just because it didn't have air conditioning. So I would be driving at night and I would be looking for something on the radio to keep myself awake and engaged. And crossing Nevada, I could find a country station, a gospel station, and another country station, which at the time I didn't want anything to do with at all. But by flipping the dial in the middle of the night, I would sometimes catch a broadcast from somewhere like Kentucky or Canada. I was going to say Kokomo, which is a town in Indiana where my dad's family is from. And I would get this late night DJ from somewhere else so far away. And it felt like a miracle. I mean, it was something that my 20-year-old brain just really couldn't wrap its arms around at all. But what I know is that those radio signals are always out there in the atmosphere, what Ernest Holmes would call the ethers. Those wavelengths, those vibrations, the frequency is being used all the time. But we only hear it if we're tuned in to that frequency. We only hear it if our receiver can receive it. So of course, it's a metaphor for life. Are you with me here? You know, you get this, right? You get where I'm going with this? Okay, I'll try not to beat it to death. So we tune in to what's out there. But I love what Ernest Holmes wrote in Living Science of Mind, which is our theme of the month, how to live this philosophy that we teach. And he says, we are all spiritual broadcasting stations, whether or not we know it. Our thoughts, feelings, and emotions, our faiths and fears tend to make an imprint on our environment. We are also receiving sets. It's fascinating to think that we broadcast and we receive. And it will be even more wonderful when we learn to broadcast only the kind of messages that we wish to have return. Because the nature of life is cyclical. It moves in a circle. You know, we talk all the time, and most spiritual traditions talk about what you put out there comes back to you. And so this idea that we're always transmitting or broadcasting something, we don't really see it, but we can feel it. You know, if you just ask your dog or your kids whether or not they know what kind of a mood you're in even before you say anything, right? They tell you that neurotic dogs and cats and canaries are a reflection of the inner workings of their owners. Oh, who needs obedience training? Yeah. So we have this always coming out from us, and you know that from other people. You know there are people that when you approach them, you're immediately engaged, or you are immediately ready to walk away. And it has to do with this broadcast that we are constantly doing. You see, there's a limit to our physical self, but there is no limit to our thinking, our mental, our spiritual self. There's no boundary. And so what I've noticed of late, and I'm sure you have too, is that I'm not the only one broadcasting. So is everybody else. And quite loudly. And sometimes with great animosity and fervent belief and strong opinions. And I can feel bombarded by all that is coming at me. We have mask wearers and non-mask wearers. We have fires. We have calls for justice, reform. We have, it's an election season. So there's plenty of opportunity for people to broadcast what they think and feel, and what they think and feel about you. So if I pause and take a moment and think about my personal world, it's a much more harmonious place. I'm here with you. I'm with my family. I'm with my friends. We socialize in groups of people whose company we enjoy for the most part. And so I'm receiving things that fill me up. Therefore, I'm also broadcasting things that are supportive to those people around me. But you know, there's always that one friend or that one relative who, shall we say, is on the opposite side of the world from you, right? And when you're in their presence or on their Facebook page, it's pretty obvious that there is a division. Ernest Holmes talks in his article about people throwing bricks. And he says, you're not to catch the brick. He says, the only reason you catch a brick is to throw it back. And I would say I might catch the brick also to build a wall. Let me show you where the line is of what I will accept and what I will not. That sense of division and separation. What Holmes recommends is that you step aside and let it go by. It's like flipping through your radio stations and not stopping on the station that has the music you don't like. Now, that's not to say that we aren't all entitled to our opinions, but I do not want to react in kind out of fear or anger or animosity or struggle or doomsday or the apocalypse is here. I don't want to be part of that. I want to respond with love. I want to come from a spiritual center. Reverend Dr. Sharon Hudson is a field leader for Centers for Spiritual Living, so from home office. And she wrote an article in Science of Mind magazine this year for July. And she has a really good example of this. She says, long ago, I was in the middle of a heated discussion with someone I loved. Emotions were high. I was upset. And then suddenly, in the midst of it all, a sense of peace descended over me. I knew that love was bigger than this. Our connection and the love we shared were not in jeopardy. And to this day, I remember the sense of all is well and the calm that transformed that moment. I do not, however, remember whatever the misunderstanding was. We never again rose to that emotional level of upset with one another. She credits this to her awareness that she's one with the beloved, one with all life, grounded in a higher truth, standing in peace, living in joy. She says, I believe that the peace of that moment came from the practice of this spiritual awareness, that my time spent in prayer, meditation, inspirational reading, and music create a foundation from which a sense of peace and well-being can naturally spring forth when it's needed most. And so that's what we're talking about today, because within us is that peace, that love, that wonderful place that we are when we are our best selves. And when we fill ourselves up, when that is nurtured, when we are consciously choosing what we are allowing in and what we are sending out into the world, we are coming from a place of life-givingness, forgivingness, support, nourishment. It changes the way we are in the world when we change our understanding of how we work, how we are spiritual. Ernest Holmes says it this way. Wait, let me get the right one. 274. We are to learn to get our own broadcasting station in order. We must tune in and tune up our own receiving set. We're all spiritual broadcasting stations. There is this silent force flowing from us in every direction at all times. How necessary it is that we assume the role of the announcer and the broadcaster. How necessary it is that we write our own program and deliver it ourselves. The force that carries our voice over the airwaves is the law. It's mechanical. It's a vibration. And it is up to us to choose the wavelength at which we wish to communicate. We start out, and this may be an overgeneralization, but I think it's true. We start out as happy babies. We start out as happy babies. There's food, there's mom. You know, we learn how to dance. Have you ever watched a baby dance? They all have rhythm. You know, this is who we are. And so through the course of life, of course, we learn things, and then we unlearn them, and then we take on things, and then we spend some years in therapy releasing those things. And we are always evolving. But ultimately what we're doing is moving ourselves back into the awareness of this spiritual nature that is already there. Opening ourselves once again to that source of the all good, rather than what we think about the world around us. Rather than what we think about love. Rather than what we think about how good life is or isn't. Rather than what we think about our brother who's off the reservation, or our best friend who joined a cult, or whatever. Of course, your family probably all thinks you join cults too, right? Some of them, yes. We know better. We're always evolving, and that spiritual practice, that time we spend in the quiet or with spiritual readings or with other people talking about real things, when we share from the heart, when our minds are open, we're going to be able to tap into that still small voice, that inner guidance that is always there. I've been reading a Joel Goldsmith book called The Government of Eden. And he says, you know, God can only be realized or recognized through communicating within us. So when revelation comes or inspiration comes, it comes within our being as that still small voice, not in the whirlwind, not out in the storm, not in the problem. That spiritual knowing is the still small voice. And so many people drop away from that because they don't know how to be still. Okay, she's nudging him. So obviously there's, somebody here who doesn't know how to be still. I thought maybe it was just me. When you develop the listening ear, when you develop an inner stillness that always has with it the ability, even while conducting business outwardly, the ability inwardly to be still and hear the voice, then you begin to respond from that place within rather than react to the noise without. You begin to tune in to the ultimate broadcasting station, which is our spiritual truth. But that voice is like a radio station that's on the air 24 hours a day. If your set is turned off, you don't hear anything. And so our call is to be receptive, is to be available, is to pay attention, not to let the noise of life, daily life, and especially in these times, take over our energy, take over our emotions, control our reactions. We want instead to match the wavelength that exists within us that we call spirit, or God, or the divine intelligence, or just simply love. So to tune in, first you are still. You allow yourself to remember, to think about, to contemplate, to pray with, to center into that silent force within you, that still small voice. Then you move back into the world. Then you broadcast. Then you respond. Then you send out what you think the world needs most. You send out love. You bring the light to the conversation. You open the doors of your own mind that you might listen more deeply, so that when people are heard, they are less likely to attack. You step aside from the bricks and you simply move from within. And if you're receiving things that are unlike the peace and the love and the joy that you want to be, if the world is overwhelming you in some way, ask yourself first, what am I putting out there? What program am I broadcasting today? Oh, wait, I'm tired and I'm cranky and I'm irritable and I'm out of gas and I only have $20 in my pocket and, you can do the laundry list of everything that's wrong. And those all may be true. But even in that moment, you can stop and think about just as many things that you are grateful for. Even if all you did was name all your friends, your family, your cats and dogs, just the ones you like. That's a pretty good list. So we ask ourselves what we're putting out there, and we remember that the reality of our being is peace, is love, is the compassion and the joy and the wisdom and the ability to be with another without having to fight, without having to convince, without having to be right. Did you get that? You don't have to be right. You don't have to convince someone else that you are right. How well does that work? It doesn't, unless you're a math teacher teaching little kids math and they figure out multiplication. That's okay, that's the right answer. For everything else, it's right for you. It's all you need to know. And that allows you to choose what you want to receive. Choose what you want to let in. Listen and decide. Listen and respond. Listen and step away. Listen and respond from and as love. For that is where that silent force is the power within you. So again, Joel Goldsmith. You can face any situation that arises in your life, from a family situation to a national or an international situation, if you can learn to sit quietly with the presence and lift it up. Lift up the I am and realize that as long as you are abiding in that I am, in that presence, there is fulfillment. There is a fullness of life. No evil can come upon you. It wasn't for pleasure or pastime that Christian scripture reveals that one with God is a majority, or that two or more gathered in my name are power itself, or that 10 righteous men can save a city. We don't have to wait for 3 billion people to learn this truth in order to save the world. A little handful of us can uphold this I am, can live with the I up here, facing the world with that consciousness always, and watch the evils of this world dissolve the consciousness of personal or national or international enemies. But somebody has to hold up the banner. Somebody has to know that Spirit is always knocking at the door, ready to be received, bringing the love and the light and the healing that is. All we have to do, just a little group of us, is to open this world to the presence of the I am. Open the door and say, Spirit, enter. So today I'm going to close with a prayer in the words of Ernest Holmes. And I'm going to invite you to go ahead and close your eyes. Take that deep breath. And turning to the one perfect divine presence at the very center of my being. Here within me, there is a consciousness of the protection of divine love, the guidance of divine wisdom, and the strength of divine power. Saying to myself, and as you take these words as your own, today I keep careful watch that I think and speak only those things that I wish broadcast from my mind and return to me. I desire that everything I think shall be from the heart as well as from the head. I wish to broadcast kindness and love, sympathy and understanding, peace and joy. No condemnation, judgment, or fear shall go from me to anyone or anything. Tuning my mind into the divine, I draw into my own soul the essence of everything that is good, true, and beautiful. I draw into my own mind the realization of the divine presence and the power of good until my whole being responds. And so now I turn in thought to the whole world and know that my word is bringing light and life and a feeling of strength and confidence to everyone. I turn in thought to the leaders of the world everywhere and know that love and intelligent guidance is directing their thoughts and actions. I turn in thought to all the nations of the earth and awaken in them the realization that there is good enough to go around, that there is a divine government under which they all may be protected from the fear of each other. I turn in thought now to the great creative imagination of humanity and assure it that there is a feeling and a presence at the center of everything waiting to make itself known. And this is all I wish to broadcast to the world, something that will help and heal and bless, something that will cause everyone to feel a new strength, a new hope. It has been destined from the foundation of the world that love should conquer all. Knowing that I receive this divine blessing in my own life, I wish to broadcast it to the whole world. O silent force of light and love within me, lead me on. And so it is. Namaste. Yeah. Let's cheer for love. Thank you all. So, let's see. Let's talk about prosperity. We are prosperous. Can you all say that? We are prosperous. Oh, maybe with a little more feeling. There we go. We are. Say our prosperity affirmation with me, if you will. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, give, and all that I receive. I am prosperous now. I have so much, I can't even get away from it. So in the interest of COVID, we're not passing the basket. We ask you just to make your donation on your way out. There is a basket and envelopes and pens there. They're set up so that you may pick one without touching all the rest, just in case you have cooties and don't know about it. There is also hand sanitizer out there. And thank you all. For those of you here in person, thank you all for wearing your masks. Mine will be on as soon as I stop speaking. I want to thank all of you for continuing to contribute and support the center, both in volunteer time. I have a special shout out to Bobby, who does our maintenance here at the center, and anything and everything else I can possibly think of, like, I don't know, wiping down 12 white chairs. So thank you, Bobby, for all that you do here. And spraying the grass to keep the mosquitoes away on a Sunday evening. Yes, we love that. We have a couple things to announce. We've decided, our little Friday donut group decided they weren't done with donuts, so we will continue to meet in October on Friday mornings at 9 o'clock. it's another bring your chair, bring your mask, bring your coffee, I'll bring the donuts. And it's just a nice way to have a little conversation and have a chance to visit in person and keep it safe. So we've been having a lot of fun with that. I also want to let you know that we will be a voting center come the national election on November 3rd. So we will actually be open the weekend prior. We have 4 days of voting available at this center. And I will be looking for a little team of refreshment angels, not to bring food, but to refresh the space. So we need people to come by during the day, check the bathrooms that they're stocked, wipe everything down. The poll workers will take care of all the voting equipment and all of that, but we are just to make sure that the rest of our space is safe and clean for them and for everybody who comes. And you are welcome to vote here as well, because in the voting center world, you may vote anywhere as long as you're registered. So if you haven't registered, do vote. Do register. Get ready for that. It's Fifth Wednesday, so we always do something a little different on Fifth Wednesday for our Wednesday night service. And we're playing a game. It's a little bit of a word game. It's going to be fun, and you can get the details when you come on Wednesday night. So if you haven't heard, that's okay. It'll be a good time. And yes, on the first Wednesday in October, our guest speaker is our very own Ed Graff back there manning the sound booth. Thank you very much, and we'll see you then. That is always an enlightening conversation. I love it when Ed talks. All right, so I want to let you know that next month's theme is conversations. And here's my idea. We all have these conversations where afterwards we go home and go, oh man, I wish I hadn't said that, or I wish I'd said that, or you go home and go, oh, that was awful. I do not feel like a spiritual person right now. So I want to take those on and sort of reframe them in a spiritual framework. So if you have conversations that you would like to know how to apply Science of Mind to, I would like to hear about it. I have topics for the first 3 weeks, but I'm guessing that you all have conversations that maybe are hard to have, or you don't want to have, or you've already had and you wish you hadn't. And if you let me know what those are, I will include them in our last week of October as the talk that week. So kind of like question and answer, but a little more specific. How is it that we can talk to each other during these somewhat contentious times and stay centered and stay in integrity and not sound like a Pollyanna, but sound like someone who speaks from truth and power and love. So that's what we'll be doing all next month, conversations. And I think that is it, except for our affirmation. See, you can forget the affirmation anytime you have service in person, because it's not on the list. But I'm going to invite you to say it after me, if you will. Today, I am tuned in to the one mind, receiving my good. I now broadcast into the world only that which blesses and heals. And so it is. Thank you all for coming. And next week we're online again, and I'll let you know if we're back in person in 2 weeks, okay? Just stay tuned, so to speak. Love you all. Bye now.